Chelsea fans, welcome back to Talking Chelsea. Welcome back to your Chelsea news. Maresca talks about Chelsea in the title race. We learn some more about Reece James behind the scenes at Cobham. Delap is injured again. Nicolas Jackson's Chelsea career is over. And Chelsea make a big move for a new midfielder. Now, of course, I begin my own thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported. But more importantly, I want to know what you guys think down below in the comments. And before we get into the video, make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content. We're on the road to 15k by the end of the season. You can also use the new YouTube hype feature, which pushes this video out to a bigger audience. Kicking things off, Bobby Vincent has reported what Enzo Maresca said on the title race. He said, "My message after Arsenal was that in February or March, if we stay in the position we are, then we are in the title race. The table is so tight. If you don't win 2 games in a row, then you drop a little bit." Now, I wanted to touch on this just a little bit because I find it wild how fast the internet moves. I love it. The game's the game, right? But already this season, what have we played? 14, 15 games? We're not even halfway through the season, and there's been so many narratives spun about the winner of the Premier League already, right? 5 games in, everyone's like, I'll just give it to Liverpool. Because they were coasting, they were 5 points clear, they were, just battering teams in the first 5 games, and then they went on this incredibly poor run of form, which is still going through right now after that 3-3 draw with Leeds, which makes our 3-1 loss look a little bit less embarrassing. I mean, it still is, but, we'll take what we can get, right? And then all of a sudden, Arsenal were, 6 points clear or whatever it was. Oh, I'll just give it to Arsenal. Can't believe they're going to win the league. Then all of a sudden Chelsea was second, and if we draw with Arsenal after that amazing week of football we had where we beat Burnley on the early kickoff, we then beat Barcelona in our own back garden, and then we draw to Arsenal, and people are like, if we kick on from this, then we can be in with a shout of the title. Man City had a slow start, and now they're popping back up there. Aston Villa didn't win a game for like the first 5 or 6. Now they've gone on like a 9-game or 7-game win streak, and now they're right up there as well, putting the pressure on Arsenal, and we're only in December. We're only in December. So the fact that a lot of Chelsea fans are like, title race is over, that's it, we're done, we're too far away. I get it. The internet moves very, very quickly. But I do actually agree with what Maresca's saying in terms of right now, the league is so tight. And I think it's one of the tightest leagues we've seen in my existence. And I'm getting on a bit. So I don't know, I could be wrong. There might be 1 or 2 that might be, up there in terms of how tight it is at this time of year, but usually there is a team breaking away, or there's 2 teams or 3 teams breaking away from the pack at this stage of the season, and that's why they normally say whoever's top at Christmas go on to win the league, because there's usually already certain their dominance. Now, that's not always the case. We've seen City overturn Arsenal, we've seen Liverpool, overturn City, and vice versa, right? It's not set in stone, but I think the overall average is whoever's top at Christmas usually goes on to win the league. So I look at the table now, and after that amazing victory for Villa yesterday, obviously we drew at Bournemouth. City are still winning games. It's still incredibly tight. And there are so little points between so many positions right now that Maresca is right. If you don't win 2 in a row, you drop down a bit. But then all of a sudden, you win a couple games, you're right back up there again. So I feel like what he's trying to say is, look, February or March, we're really going to start seeing the split in the pack of the league. And if Chelsea can go through December and not be embarrassing like we were in previous games and this time last year, but we went on that really bad run of form, then I do genuinely think that Chelsea are going to be up and amongst it. This month is so pivotal for Chelsea Football Club because historically we have a poor December. So I'm thinking that if we do go through this December and just reduce the amount of losses, increase the draws and wins, we're already in a better position than we were this time last year. A lot of people like to compare where we are now to last year, and I like the historical data side of it, but every league is different. Every team you face is the same, team you face twice across the calendar year. I'm not blaming it on terms of the string of fixtures and in terms of how they play, because it levels out across the season. That's how it works. But in terms of the teams individually, they get better or worse over a course of the transfer windows and players leaving, players coming, etc., new management, new styles of play, etc. So I take it with a pinch of salt. But I do genuinely think that, even though we've had 2 games in a row where it's been really poor performances and we've only picked up 1 out of a potential 6 points, is really bad on the surface. But when we're going into December, these are the games we do need to start winning. And if we do go through December and we pick up more points than what we were expecting to, we've got Atalanta in the Champions League, and then we've got the likes of Everton, etc. I think we've got Newcastle. I think we might even have Villa. Some big games. It's going to be a tough period, not just for us, but for a lot of teams because of how tight that league is. Sunderland are like a couple of points off of being in the top 4. Liverpool, even though they've been on a bad run of form, they're a couple of points off the top 4 or in and around that, in and amongst it. Like, it's so tight. So I understand what Maresca's saying in terms of like right now it's way too early. And when you do look at the league and you go, actually, it's crazy how tight the points are. It is a bit too early because, like I said, so many narratives have already been spun and it's December. So I'm genuinely so excited, not just about Chelsea, but in terms of the Premier League this season. I've never been more excited because everyone's beating everyone. People are going on poor runs of form, good runs of form. Players are popping up, last-minute winners, etc., things like that. Every single week, that it's keeping this league as entertaining as possible. Some people say it's a boring league. I really don't see it this season because of how tight it is between so many clubs. Who would have thought that Sunderland would go on and beat us and go on this run of games and, be up there? They were second in the Premier League at one point. What? What's going on here? Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. Liverpool going on this really bad spell, but still being in and amongst it. Man United getting right up there again because they're winning a few games together and whatnot, even though they've not particularly been great this season. I don't know. I just find it the most entertaining. So I wanted to kind of reiterate this, and I like that Maresca's come out and said it again, saying, after Arsenal, this is what I said. All right, and I still stand by it because, all right, maybe I agree with Maresca quite a lot. There's still certainly things I disagree with for sure, but this specifically, I'm like, he's got a point. February, March is when we're really going to start seeing that separation, and if Chelsea can get through this December spell and even going into January, and we can pick up more points than we're expecting to, and we can, then it's a big if. It's a big ask, it's a big if, right? Because the go of the last two games, we've been so poor. But I still think this team is more than good enough to pick up the points, against the fixtures we've got across the festive period. I was going to say the December period, but the festive period of December going into January. By February, we are going to have more of an idea of what's going to happen, who's going to run away with the league. No one expected Arsenal to lose in the way that they did yesterday, but they did. Man City are now winning. Villa are now winning. It's constantly changing. So I think it's very early to pick a winner. And now the narrative will start to shift on Arsenal because, the pressure's still on them because they are leading the pack, but that's been reduced to 2 points now. It was like 6 the other day, or literally last week, I think it was like 6 points. So things are changing all the time. So it'll be very interesting to see how the Premier League plays out. Of course, I want the best for Chelsea. We're all Chelsea fans here, right? So I'm hoping that we can be in and amongst it. And I think that Chelsea can definitely be in that top 3. We just need some consistency, which I know is something we constantly say and bang on about, saying that we don't have it. But I'm hoping that we find some stability and pick up more points and just don't have as many losses across this December as we did last year. Because that's what really got us stuck in the mud, and even the draws, to be fair. But if we could turn what would have been losses into draws, that's a bonus. If we could turn what would have been losses into wins, draws into wins, it's a massive bonus and it's a huge step up for us. I think the team are in a better position. You look at the likes of Trevor Chalobah and Fofana. Fofana staying fit. If he can manage his workload, that would be amazing because they've had, I think it's like 5 clean sheets in 6 games they played together or something like that. They've been incredible. And that could be the plug in that centre-back sort of leak. Those two can fix that. It's just about scoring goals and creating chances. That's where we've actually had the most problems. Not half chances, but actually creating clear-cut chances for people to finish. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding the Premier League season so far and how many narratives have been spun about who's going to win it, who's going to run away with it. Where do you think Chelsea realistically finish? Do you think we're going to be top 4? Do you think we can challenge for the league if we get a good run of games between December and January and put us in a position for next year? I'm very curious to know your thoughts. The Telegraph have reported that Willie Easter's bond with Reece James and leadership group is such that he will not pass on their discussions around the club or even to his superiors unless it is deemed appropriate. Sometimes what is said in the group stays in the group, but James has also learned that it can be good to talk. Having been quiet and reserved in public, it has been noticeable that James has started to do more interviews and look more relaxed in front of the cameras and microphones. Insiders say that Reece James is a vocal presence who is listened to by all levels of staff and players in the dressing room and around the training ground. He is capable of keeping teammates in check if they are late or need reminding of their responsibilities, and it helps run the players' fine system with the rest of the leadership group. Now, I've said to you many times, I love stuff like this. This is like the little nuggets you get about what it's really like behind the scenes in the day-to-day. Now, Willie Easter, I think, is someone who is overlooked a little bit because he's been fantastic since he came in. I'll hold my hands up, but a lot of the Chelsea fan base were laughing that we were hiring a rugby mentality coach in a football team, but he made a massive difference. And if he's working one-to-one with players like Reece James in this leadership group, it is making a world of difference. Look at how Enzo Fernandez thinks about the club, thinks about players coming in, thinks about how he wears the badge on his sleeve and how he's proud of being at this club. Look at how Reece James is opening up. Last season, Maresca kind of berated him a bit, saying, he's a bit introverted and he wants someone that's going to be more of a leader and show these leadership qualities. And now he has consistently. He stayed fit. He's working one-on-one. He's just locked in. He is locked in. And if Willie Easter is a part of that, then we have to give him credit. developing this elite mentality, developing this leadership group. You know, we've got the likes of Cole Palmer, who's seen as someone who is a bit more reserved, but definitely leads by example and is still part of that leadership group. You've got Enzo Fernandez, who really stepped into that vice-captain's role. You've got the likes of Chalobah and other players, Levi Colwell, Caicedo, leading by example and also chipping into that leadership group. I think we are really developing something special, and we're on the cusp of it, you know, kind of being cemented in. And of course they're going to be angry and upset and disappointed about the previous results, but I like the fact that they're putting their head down, they keep going, and they're not straying away and letting it get to them. They're trying to go out there and change things. It's a massively different position to where we were in this time last season, which is why I think that this December-January period can be very different for Chelsea this season compared to last. You know, Maresca's got a different mindset in terms of what he's willing to do and what the expectations and the goals are between him and the group of players. The players are all singing from the same hymn sheet. They're all driving in the same direction. They'll run through brick walls for Maresca. And Willie, Issa, and the sort of one-to-one and the leadership group is really making a big difference. So I found it very interesting that Reece James is also one of the players in charge of the fine system. I suppose it makes sense as he's the captain, right? But I have also noticed he's doing more interviews and stuff like that, which is nice to see because we love Reece James, we really do. He bleeds blue, he is one of us. So it's just nice to kind of read into it a little bit more and find out a bit more about the behind the scenes, you know. Of course, being the captain of keeping people in check when needed to be. I can imagine Enzo Fernandez does something similar as the vice captain, and especially like reminding them of the responsibilities. I think that's a good thing from Reece to be like, you know, leading by example and, you know, wind your neck in. This is what we're here to do, and this is what we're pushing for. I just think it's good. I think, like I said, all the players are singing from the same hymn sheet. I don't look at our squad and go, oh, that one's disruptive, this one's not pulling his weight. I feel like everyone is just trying to work hard and trying to get results. And like I said, that's massively different to where we were this time last year. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Reece James, Willie, Issa. Was you one of the fans that laughed at the fact that we signed Willie, Issa in terms of the mentality coach? Have you now changed your opinion on him? Do you think he was actually a good addition into Chelsea Football Club in terms of, you know, getting the players all playing the right way and in terms of having this elite mentality being developed and the confidence being instilled into the team? Or do you still think it was a bit of a PR move? Let me know your thoughts down below. Bobby Vincent has reported what Enzo Maresca said on Liam Delap's injury. He said, unfortunately, he will be out again and we don't know how long, but his shoulder looks quite bad. He has been unlucky. He's been out for 2 months already and needs to be out again. Now, we did speak about Liam Delap in yesterday's video. It was like a news/review video. Liam Delap has dislocated his shoulder. He was having this intense battle with Sensei. I think that Sensei got the better of him over the course of the game. Even Sensei went off injured later on in the game. But there was some sort of tussle in the box. He pulls down Liam Delap. He lands funny, dislocates his shoulder. He goes off. Mark Guiu comes on in his place. Now, a few people were shocked that Guiu got the call and the nod over João Pedro at the time of the game. I was actually quite happy that Guiu's getting more of an opportunity because I think that João Pedro has been off the boil for a long, long time now, ever since that Spurs game, really. He had an okay performance against Arsenal because his job and the game plan was for him not to have many touches, but his job was to be the flick-on guy, to try and get the wingers involved. I think he did fairly well in that game specifically. But overall, he's been off the boil a while. Liam Delap, he's very decisive and splitting the fan base in terms of if you're a fan or not as of right now. I personally feel like he'll come good later on and we will look back. But when you take a zoom out, he's had a very unfortunate season so far in terms of 2-month injury with a hamstring. He's had some discipline issues, which is all on him, by the way. It's not an excuse. That is for him to sort of deal with. And now he's going to be out for a long period again because he's dislocated his shoulder. Maresca's even saying, yesterday he said it looked quite bad. And now he's saying we don't know how long he's going to be out for. Now, I've Googled it. And again, I'm not working in the medical field, but it's looking at around 4 or 5 weeks that he's going to take to recover from something like this, depending on how intensive that dislocation is. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. I kind of feel for him a little bit because I want him to do well. I think we all want him to do well, but it's not reflective in terms of his performances. He's scored 2 goals in his last 17 games. He has had a long time out with injury and he's going to be out for again. So I wanted to cover something that Chelsea Dodger has tweeted and I wanted to have a conversation with you guys. Chelsea Dodgers tweeted this out. Emegha so far this season, 11 games, 7 goals and 2 assists. On the back of Liam Delap's injury, plus the poor form from all our forwards, would you bring him to the club in January instead of summer? Now for me, yes, hands down, do it. Bring him back. Because the way I look at it is Delap's going to be out for 4 or 5 weeks. And that, I don't know whether that's just the shoulder injury recovering fully or if that's recovery and being back on the pitch and training and being enough to play. We don't really know until we get the official diagnosis from the medical team. And even if we hear about that, it might be weeks until we do. But that takes you well into January. Takes you into that transfer window. We've got Mark Guiu and we've got João Pedro who just isn't playing very well. And I'm not putting any pressure on Mark Guiu because he's still young. We know what he can do, but we're not expecting him to bag 20 goals this season. But again, we're back in a position where we don't have a reliable forward. Cole Palmer's back, in that 10. He's still not fully fit, but he's played 30 minutes and then he's played 60 minutes. And, it's going to take him a while to get back up to speed. But we have our number 10 back, right? As long as he stays injury-free, touch wood. Which means João Pedro's going to play in the 9. It's going to be João Pedro and Mark Guiu. And if Pedro don't start picking up any form, we have to start asking questions about what's going on with him. I know he's playing through injuries, only training every other day. But there's only so much that you can kind of deal with that, because at the end of the day, we are still competing in the league. We're still competing in the Champions League and all the other cup competitions. We need a firing forward of some description. And I don't think it's fair to put all of that pressure onto Mark Guiu, because if it goes on for a while and he's not performing, people are just going to get on his back too. And he's extremely young. He's still developing. But then you look at the fact that Chelsea have signed Emmanuel Emegha, and we have the option to bring him in January. Now, he's on fire right now in terms of for Strasbourg. 11 games, 7 goals, 2 assists. Now, yes, it's Ligue 1. It's a different standard to the Premier League, granted. I really like his profile. He was also suspended for a game. Apparently he said something in an interview that Strasbourg really didn't disagreed with. I don't really know the ins and outs of it, so not really reacted to it. But from what I've skim-read, he said something about the heritage or the country that he thought Strasbourg was in, and that's changed. And historically, that's quite a touchy subject, let's say. I don't really know too much about it. If you do, let me know in the comments. But he was suspended for a game, and it wasn't due to ill discipline or anything like that. It was he wasn't working hard enough. It's just something he said. He was apologised for, because he was like, I didn't know. Anyway, I think it's an honest mistake, but again, I don't know the ins and outs. In terms of his form on the pitch, 11 games, 7 goals, 2 assists, you just take it, because that is so much better than any of our forwards have done so far this season. Our highest goal scorer is Pedro Neto. Now, I like Pedro Neto. I think he's our most consistent winger. He works hard defensively. He works hard offensively. He's got one of the most accurate crosses in the game. If we had someone that can actually attack it, he is very frustrating to watch at times, for sure, because he's head down, knock it past and try and create something, but he's also getting on the score sheet. He's our top goal scorer. Esteval is second, and then I think it's João Pedro as well. And that's 5 goals to Pedro now, right? We need someone in that 9 position. We've got Emegha, who's in a good run of form. Bring him in January, because Delap will still be injured. João isn't firing on all cylinders, and we've got Mark Guiu, who, again, we can't put too much pressure on. So I want to ask you guys what you would do. Would you bring him in January, or would you just suffer through the January transfer window, not get anyone in, hope that Delap comes back and hits the ground running, and bring in Emegha in the summer? Or would you bring in Emegha in January because you're like, we just need someone now? Or the third option is, do we go out and get a completely different centre forward for now? I personally don't see Chelsea doing that, but I'd like to know your guys' thoughts and opinions regarding our striker position in and around January. Because like I said, I'd bring Emegha back. I think he's in good run of form. I like his profile. Bring him in. I think he does very well in this Chelsea team, because he's hungry. We reacted to it the other day. He wants to play for Chelsea. He wants to be joining up with Chelsea as soon as possible. Same as Mamadou Sarr. I don't think Mamadou Sarr will be recalled, or Anselmino will be recalled, because I think we do have a solution to that centre-back issue. But with Emmanuel Emegha, what would you do? Fabrizio Romano has reported that Nicolas Jackson's obligation deal conditions will no longer be possible due to his current minutes alongside AFCON. In any case, Jackson and Chelsea is over. Chelsea signed Emegha from Strasbourg, so Jackson is not in their plans. Now, we spoke about this periodically as the season's gone on, because statistically, it was possible that he could play 40 games. Then it was like, actually, it's going to be very touch and go. He'd have to start every single game, and he might scrape by. And people are like, hang on, we've got AFCON. So he's going to be away for January, depending on how far Senegal go in AFCON. And now it's statistically impossible. And Bayern Munich have said many times, we are not paying £56 million for Nicolas Jackson at the end of the season. The obligation will not be hit. They have finessed it in a way where they're happy to pay, I think, whatever the loan fee was, 14 million euros, something like that. Great. They were happy to pay that because they needed the player. And I've not really been keeping up with Jackson, but he's been doing okay, bit parts. Not amazing, not tearing trees up, just being Jackson, I think. I think that's a fair thing to say. Scored a couple goals, that's about it. Hasn't really hit the ground running at Bayern Munich, but fair play to him. He's happy, he wants to play football. Now, the interesting thing here is Fabrizio's a very reliable source, and he's basically saying, it's over, bro. He's not come back to Chelsea. He will be leaving Chelsea. He's not part of their plans. And I feel quite bad, because when you look at our forward position right now and how no one's firing, people are now screaming out saying, why did we get rid of Jackson? If Jackson was here, he'd be bagging in goals. And I don't know if he would or not. I think he would definitely be performing at a higher level, for sure. I think we do miss his hold-up play, his link-up play. But I think that people are overlooking how much he would miss the half chances, or he wouldn't convert. he would need 6 or 7 chances a game to put one away. Now, he did have a good run of form at the start of last season. He was scoring against Leicester and scoring West Ham, etc. He had some moments. And I thought he was really going to kick on. But he was also one of those players that went in a very bad run of form for quite a long time. And I think revisionism is a thing. We're going, he was amazing last year. Now he was a good forward, don't get me wrong. And I think that I didn't want us to get rid of Jackson. Because again, you go back to the summer, people saying sell him, he's awful, get rid of him. And now we need a striker. It's like, why do we get rid of him? We need him. He's amazing. It's just how fast the internet moves and how fast that pendulum swings, right? I think he's a good forward. I think he would definitely be performing better than our current forwards. And him and João Pedro could be very interesting, to say the least. However, he was ending his Chelsea career with some discipline issues. Them City red cards, Newcastle, Club World Cup. Then he was saying he's going to fight for his place. Then he was like, actually, I want to leave. Chelsea were like, all right, cool. That was a whole messy situation. It really was. And that's just being brutally honest about it. Chelsea messed him about. And fair play for Jackson for being like, nah, I'm good. I'm actually good. You can't mess me about anymore. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. Because Chelsea are going to want at least 50, 60 million for him. They're not going to be charging that 70 million. Or if they are, they're not going to get a sale. Because they've already received 14 million from Bayern Munich, which reduces his overall fee that they would be happy to take. Now, does he go to Serie A? Juventus were sniffing around him in the summer. Does he go to another Premier League club? Villa were very interested, but we know they have issues with PSR. I don't really know. A lot of the forwards made their moves in the summer. Same with defenders. It's going to happen in January and in the summer as well, and even the summer coming. We're going to see a big monumental shift across Europe based on what the reports are saying and a lot of these reliable reporters. So it'll be interesting to see where Jackson ends up and who is willing to pay that money. Because I think if you're going in for Jackson at 55 million, I don't think that's overinflated. I think in current player prices, it's relatively fair. I think it's actually relatively fair priced. Because you think Mabueke went for 52.5. Elanga went for a similar money. Voltemada went up for nearly 70 million. And I think Jackson he's got Prem experience, scoring a lot of non-penalty goals, good link-up, good hold-up. Yes, his finishing needs to improve, but I honestly think that he could be utilised as a winger. I really, really do. I still think that's in his skill set. That's naturally how he came through. It was Emery that put him as a 9 and gave him that chance at Villarreal. Chelsea obviously played him as a 9. I think he is a good player, but he's just not as consistent as what Chelsea need right now. So I'll be very interested to see where he ends up, and I'd like to know your thoughts and opinions. Do Bayern Munich, in a shock twist, end up buying him at the end of the season because they need a replacement for Harry Kane or someone as in that squad? Do somehow the bridges get rebuilt between Chelsea and Jackson? Or does he part ways and go to somewhere like Villa or somewhere like Juventus? What do you think the future holds for Nicolas Jackson? Fabrice Hawkins reported the other day that Chelsea and Arsenal were prepared to send €45 million bids in January to sign Lille midfielder star Ayoub Bouadi. However, the next day, Lost Clive had reported that reported Chelsea target Ayoub Bouadi has signed a contract with Lille until 2029. But this morning, Fabrizio Romano has reported that Chelsea and Arsenal are still monitoring the Lille midfielder Ayoub Bouadi, despite the 18-year-old newly signing a contract that runs until 2029. Bouadi penned a contract extension and wage increase with Lille, which was announced yesterday, but it hasn't changed that the big clubs are interested. Now, I looked at this and seen it unfold, and I thought, is there any point to react to this? He's just signed a new extension. I don't know too much about this player. Did a little bit of research, and he looks like another wonder kid, but coming out of France. Right? He's a French centre midfielder. He's played about 14 games, got 1 red card, 1 assist. That's about all that anyone knows, unless you watch Lille and watch this player. I don't know too much about him, but I find it very interesting that, Arsenal and Chelsea both hovering around. He then signs an extension and it's not changed anything. That goes to show me that this guy has some serious skill and that Lille's diversion tactics or deterrent tactics are just not working. You're giving him a pay rise and a contract extension, and Arsenal and Chelsea are like, we'll pay you more, we still want you, we'll pay the fee. That is obviously big news. Now, he plays in central midfield. He can play defensively. He plays just as a central midfielder. No more as an attacking, no more as a DM, but just centrally. Right, that's all I know about him. I think he's 1.86 m. So, what's that? Just under 6 foot, it's like 5'10-ish, 5'11". So he's not like a massive bloke, but he's not exactly short. And that's all I really know about him. So it'd be very interesting to see how this develops. I'm going to do a bit more research about him and kind of see what's going on. But I wanted to react to this and have a conversation with you guys. One, see if you guys have watched this guy and know if he's any good. Let me know your thoughts about him down below. But also, what are Chelsea and Arsenal trying to cook here? They must obviously be seeing something that other clubs aren't. And Lille's deterrent has not worked. He's been reported. We're going to give him links with big clubs. We'll give him a new contract. We'll give him a wage increase. There till 2029. And Arsenal and Chelsea are like, and whatever, we'll pay him more, we'll pay you more. If we want the player, we're going to get the player, which I think is a very bold move, and it also kind of highlights the skill level of this player that, if I'm being honest, the average football fan isn't going to know too much about unless you are watching Liga and you're a fan of Lille and watch him whenever he's playing. But I've not seen much on the highlight reels. I've not seen much of anything. I use Transfermarkt and a lot of other sources to kind of gather some information on these players that we're linked with. But like I said, 14 games, 1 red card, 1 assist, plays central midfield. He's French. He's playing for the French under-21s. It seems like he's doing, playing well and performing well for those as well. That's about it. So if you guys have heard of Ayoub Bouadi, I hope I pronounced that right. I think that's how the pronunciation video was saying it as well. I've tried my best. You guys know I try. I'm not lazy. If you know anything about him, let me know in the comments below. Would you take a player like this? Is this an opportunity for Chelsea first team in the future? Is this a potential loan for development at Strasbourg? Is this a flip to buy to sell for for profit later down the line? But I just thought it was very interesting that Arsenal and Chelsea are not being deterred by the fact that Lille have offered him a new wage and a new extension. They're still sitting there hovering around and basically trying to work out what it's going to take to pry him away from Lille. So at 18 years old, another youngster. And like I keep saying, that the talent that we're getting now that's coming through at such a young age is unfathomable now. It is insane. Like, these football clubs across the world are just generating these unbelievable players. So it's a great time to be a football fan, and even for the future coming into it. So let me know your thoughts and opinions down below regarding Ayoub Bouadi. And that's the latest Chelsea news. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything that's been reported down below in the comment section. I love having a conversation with you guys. If you have watched this video all the way to the end, firstly, you're a real one, and I mean that. You're a real one. But secondly, there'll be a thumbnail appears on the screen. So if you are a Chelsea fan who enjoys Chelsea content, make sure you click that thumbnail because you'll enjoy that video too.